everyone, it's Hajra. Today I'll be doing a simple ink silhouette piece with some pastel finishing. I used a photograph from a friend's visit to Turkey as a loose reference. I love the lines of this Turkish architecture and I used just the silhouette of the building. I also like the roses in the photo and I moved them to be perfectly adjacent to the building and modified the outline and like where the flowers and leaves and everything were until it worked for me and how I was doing my drawing. I'm not going to need the photograph after this, so now that I've gotten my inspiration from it, I can just put the photo aside. For this project, I'm using a soft size paper called BFK Reeves and it's made from arches. And I'm using with it a sepia colored Winsor & Newton marker, and you can see that unlike Bristol vellum or hot press arches watercolor paper, the marker on this paper really bleeds. I had to get used to that quick, so I'm gonna go back and fix the spire at the top of this minaret because the bleeding made it all wonky, and all I can do is either fix it or toss it. And the head starts out also looking kind of like a porcupine for the same reason, but I'm trying to have like a learning curve with this marker on this paper while I'm doing this video, and it eventually pays off. And I don't think I'll be doing more marker work on this paper in the future. It's lovely for printmaking or for you stampers out there, and also for brushing on ink or watercolor. But because it's soft sized, it only has an internal gelatin layer and not an external gelatin layer as well. So unlike hot press or cold press arches watercolor paper, it doesn't have any lifting or correcting capacity. I figure out that just dabbing and poking works better for the leaves than just the teeny edges because then it only bleeds a little bit and it won't actually go past where I want it to go in the first place. When you're working on foliage in silhouette, you have to leave holes here and there. It can't be a solid shape like no sun or no lights ever getting through. So I'm also going to add some window holes in the building, even though they don't go all the way through in real life, obviously. This is just for stylized detail. And the holes in the rose head should be irregular and unevenly shaped and placed for the best verisimilitude and visual appeal, because anything that's too even or too regular is going to look really unnatural, and then it's gonna look less pretty. Again, I'm doing all the foliage without the photo. It's all sort of random to suit my silhouette's balance in this drawing. Silhouettes can be a really cool, unique thing to work on because it's like telling a visual story with shadows on the wall. So it's interesting because you don't have the internal details, but just the outline can give you so much information. I'm gonna go back and color in the silhouette now with the broader tip of the marker, and it's gonna take 3 passes to make the color even and hide all the scratchy marker lines. And this is why I personally prefer wet ink or wet watercolor paint, is because it's so much smoother. And if any of these holes need to be made smaller or just be gobbled up by my marker for it to look better for me, then I'm gonna do that, because you need to do what looks good to you, and sometimes when coloring in, things will look different and you wanna get rid of some things. Now I'm considering using inks to finish the piece, but I actually saw my pastels lying at the bottom of my drawer and I wanted to show how pastels work really well with silhouette pieces, even if you use them really simply, so I'm going to use those instead. So I'm just going to make up a sky, and I want some vibrant colors because I want it to contrast with the solid sepia of my ink silhouette. So I'm going to go for a really cool, colorful sunset sky look. I'm going to go in with a yellow first and then a yellow orange, and just look at how that yellow pastel powder spilling over the windows and edges makes that silhouette glow. Then I'm going to apply the purple at the top of the page, and I don't blend that straight into the yellow hues on the bottom because purple and yellow are complements and it's going to make brown if I mix them. And I don't want a brown in the sky, obviously. So I'm going to use what are called bridge colors to close the gap: red, violet, or magenta, and then pink underneath that purple. So when that pink hits the yellow and the yellow orange, it's gonna also turn into orange, which is where we left off on that bottom side, so there's not gonna be any mud, which is what I want. I did notice that a blemish emerges in the paper as a small blot in the sky, and this is probably from an oil spot or some paper damage that came with the paper, and I didn't really notice it because it's not all that obvious, but I can still see it. But I did see it after I stopped filming, and because I was using pastel, it's actually really easy to fix with a repeat layering of the same purple and magenta. Repeating the layers is going to make all the pastel colors more vibrant, which is nice, and it works fine, but I still leave slices of white space and all those little white specks. I really like the white patchiness poking through the grain of the paper because it looks like cloud texture and it looks really wispy. If you want a smoother look, you can cover the grain of the paper more completely and then use white pastel for clouds instead. So here's another really fun and simple Inktober piece all wrapped up. Hope you are also inspired to do some silhouettes with ink and maybe even add some pastel garnishes. As always, thanks for watching and hope you like and subscribe. See you next time and good luck with all of your fantastical painting adventures.